Our fight to eradicate corruption, maladministration, unethical leaders, and the abuse of taxpayers' money by those in power continues. It's fresh, it's fearless, and focused. The Outer Hour, where your voice matters.
Hello and welcome to the Outer Hour. I'm Tom London, your host for the next 60 minutes on a cold Johannesburg night in our studio tonight as we prepare for a long weekend and prepare for Youth Day. As many South Africans prepare for this weekend, let's pause for 60 minutes, shall we? And focus on what Youth Day means. What does Youth Month mean in 2022? What is it like to be young in South Africa today, given our high record unemployment rates? What are the challenges that young people face? Where do the opportunities lie? What can we as the older generation do to ensure a better outcome for the young people of South Africa today? Now, you don't have to be a young person to enjoy the conversation tonight. You don't have to be a young person to care about the future of our youth. You can impart wisdom. You can ask critical questions and we can find solutions together. It's the young generation that should be the change makers. It's the youth who should be the policy shapers. It's the young people of South Africa who should be the beneficiaries of a prosperous South African economy and future. So, join us on this Outer Hour as we celebrate young people in South Africa in the spirit of Youth Month. Hello and welcome to the Outer Hour once again. We've got an action-packed show lined up for you tonight. We've got competition winners. We're going to announce some competition winners this evening. And we're going to be commemorating Youth Day in the spirit of Youth Day, talking to some young people tonight, finding out what their opinion on the state of South Africa is as far as the opportunities and challenges for young people are concerned. So do stay with us. Listen, we need your, if you're an oldie like me, we need you on board because you've got insight. You've got some years under the belt and you've got some advice and I'm sure some questions that you can pop into the comment section down below the video. Speaking of the comment section down below the video, let's say hello, shall we, to the people who are moderating tonight in the, and I see we've just lost, we lost that feed for a second, so if you let me just press a couple of buttons quickly and get Samantha van Nispen on board as well as Devaney Davids. I will have them on in just a second. Right, give me 1 second, we'll get them on board for you. And you can take a look at who's behind the scenes. So who is behind the scenes on the Outer Hour tonight? Let's say hello to Samantha van Nispen, shall we? Hello, Samantha van Nispen. How are you?
Hi, Tom. Hi, our viewers. I'm good. Just chilly in Joburg today.
Samantha van Nispen is the head of marketing and communications, and in your Facebook section tonight as your Facebook moderator, the producer of the show is Devaney Davids, and Devaney will be in the YouTube live feed. So let's say, how's it, Devaney, at your home office? Looking forward to the show tonight. Hello. There you are. It's 'cause, are you happy? There's a long weekend coming up. There's a big long weekend smile on your face, eh?
But this long weekend asks for indoors, yo. Scout.
It's true, except this studio's got a very nice air conditioner. I'm at 26 degrees right now. You can be jealous if you want. Okay, next up is you on the other side of the camera. Wandise Boyd is first up to say hello this evening. Hello, Wandise. Good to have you with us. Let's see, we got a lot of comments coming in. Right. Vut Zarko says, I'm getting goosebumps. Welcome to the show. Michael John Billsbury from the Eastern Cape. Good evening from a cold PE. Fikile Dada. Hey, Fix. Fix says, good evening, everybody. Diane LaRue says, hello, Outer team. I'm looking forward to tonight's show. Let's get through these comments quickly. Keep them coming. I'll pop them up on the screen. Alex Elshove is on board and says, how's it, Outer team? Wayne Duvenage, the Outer CEO, is in your comment section. Say hello to Wayne. Peter Webb says, Peter Webb, new viewer. Yay! Peter, welcome to the family. Welcome to the Outer Hour. Judy van Gilswijk says, good evening from a chilly Pretoria. Freddie Mills says, we're here again. Hello, Freddie. Welcome. Hercules Squimby, you always give us hope, says Hercules. Thank you, Hercules. So do you by tuning into the show. Faiza Ravat says, good evening, Outer family. Loving the topic selection. Very relevant. We're going to have a good show tonight. Stay with us. Dagmar Hurleyman says, good evening, everyone from Midrand. Don't forget, Dagmar, as you say hello and as you say hello to us this evening, to like and share the show. That's how we get it out to as many people as possible. Like and share this broadcast. So we do one more hello. Mervyn says, hi. Hi, Mervyn. And Mike Erickson Miller says, hi, Tom, I'm an oldie, but we're so negative at always been disappointed by the ANC government's... All right, we'll get into that in a moment. I promise you, the hello is good enough for now. And I'm looking forward to your contribution tonight, Mike. Okay, shall we say hello to the CEO of Outer, shall we? Wayne Duvenage is sitting in his home office, ready to join us and talk about the theme of tonight's show and the guests and contributors we've got. How's it, Wayne?
How's it, Tom? Nice to be with you and all our guests this evening, our Outer staff, our Outer team, and their viewers, our supporters out there. It's going to be an action-packed show, so I just really wanted to welcome Suliwe Shivambu and Tsepo Pasha. Thanks for joining us tonight. We've also got Asavela Kakaza and Rachel Fisher, the Outer team members. Tomorrow is Youth Day, but I think what we've got to be very mindful of is the fact that it's very tough for the youth in South Africa today, coming out of a very tough education system that has let us down and let our youth down, coming into markets that are very constricted and, jobs are just not out there enough. And it's very frustrating. And I think we've let our youth down as a country, as a nation, as leadership. And a lot has to be done in that space. So there's going to be a lot of talk about that tonight with our guests. But I think I just want to highlight one thing, Tom, because I'm not going to be in the show. I'm going to leave it over to the guests and the talk. And that is today the Auditor General reported on the local government audits and the municipalities. And once again, as it has been for the last number of years, shocking. Just we're not going anywhere. Nothing is changing. It's getting worse. You just cannot have a situation where 18% of your municipalities have clean audits, where more than half of them are just not getting back and dealing with the findings that happened in the previous year. And the amount that we spend on consultants, because we just can't do the work. So we outsource the work and we still get paid, as do the consultants. Very often they are connected cronies and friends and family members. So we've got a lot to do. But one thing we're encouraged about in today's statement by the Auditor General is this word of active citizenry. And this is the big shift that is coming, and the number of talks and engagements that we're having with outside entities, with other organizations, with people in the knows, that it is now down to citizens to become the solution finders and to drive the necessary change that they want to see. And we're seeing some really interesting developments, but this is the space that we play in and Outer. This is the space that we're going to play even more in as we start launching, which we've already started to do, and we'll feature more about that, our Community Action Network plan, our water can plan, and so forth. So there's so much exciting stuff, and we're really looking forward to what's coming down the road. Less than 24 months from now is our next elections. This has to be the big change. But over to our visitors and our guests. Lovely to have you on board. Thanks for taking the time and joining us. Have a great show, and I'll be engaging with you in the comments section. Thanks again, Tom, and just have fun. Lots on our plate. We're having a lot of fun at Outer.
It's so nice of you to check in with us, Wayne, and good to see your face. We'll have you on a full show one of these days soon to talk about some exciting stuff, I'm sure. Wayne Duvenage is the CEO of Outer, introducing the show tonight. And let me, in just a second, once Wayne leaves, I can have everybody on screen. And, almost everybody, because we've got Tsepo sitting on his own in the screen. So there we go. There's Rachel Fisher in your top right corner. Suliwe Shivambu is on your bottom left corner. Outer's very own Asavela Kakaza. And if I flip the screen around a bit, you will see that we've got Tsepo Pasha on board as well. The youth are represented here tonight. We're looking forward to a fascinating conversation with young people. And you, if you're not a young person like me, young and old talking together. Sometimes I think we need to get rid of two things in this country. One is this attitude that you can become a millionaire overnight, and that's what success is, and that's what you need to become in South Africa, an overnight millionaire. That doesn't quite happen in reality. We need to pour some cold water on that and talk about what success really means and entrepreneurship really means. And then I think we need to include the youth more when it comes to our economy. We'll talk about inclusivity. We'll talk about that word inclusive. What does it mean? And we'll talk about a whole lot more as we discuss Youth Month, Youth Day, and what it's like to be a youth in South Africa today. Perhaps you've got some opinion you'd like to put in the comment section down below this video. Maybe you've got children or grandchildren. You just care about young people, and you've got observations, and you've seen their struggles. Have you seen the opportunities? Pop your observations and comments in the comment section. I'd love to put them up on screen. Now, before we get to our guest tonight and get into the meat of the conversation, Outer has been running a competition. Started at the end of March. Outer sent a message out that said, Outer seeks to promote citizen awareness on both electoral reform and the responsibility of voting in preparation for the national elections in 2024. And Outer asked young people to send their illustration or drawing of what voting means to you and its importance, and you could win a 2,000 Rand cash prize if you were the winner. Now, we are going to announce the winner on the Outer Hour tonight, but to tell us a little bit about the competition and the excitement around it is Outer's very own Rachel Fisher, Outer's Parliamentary Engagement and Research Manager down in the Mother City. Hello, Rachel.
Hi, Tom. How are you?
Yeah, I'm lekker, thank you. Are you good there in the Mother City? Eh? Huh? All good?
Yes, absolutely. And, we're keeping busy and championing this notion of electoral reform. Mm-hmm. We were also mentioning previously how the 30th of June is International Day of Parliamentarism. Tomorrow is Youth Day. And I think these two cannot be separated from one another. And parcel, they're important.
All right, now tell us a little bit about the competition.
So this competition was actually to spark a discussion on why is voting important. Essentially, when it comes to these bills and acts and whatever, it's really complicated. And as adults, we do complicate things. We make it very academically heavy and legally heavy. Kids are smart in the sense that they keep it simple. They are straightforward, and they tell you what it is they need and what they want, and they want it now. So we wanted from children to hear, why does voting matter? So we asked for drawings on this and offered the cash prize because we want to see and hear what the youth feels is important.
Now, each of our finalists are going to receive a book, a cap, and a mask for participating, but it's the winner and only the winner who will walk away with a 2,000 Rand cash prize tonight. Are you ready, Rachel?
Yes, I am. I'm not going to get a drum roll first.
Oh, hold on, you can have you can have a crowd applause if you want. There we go. There's Rachel Fisher. Yay! Good job, Rachel. Right, you wanted it, you got it. Drum roll next week.
Okay, well, first of all, so I want to say in fourth place, due recognition. This was, I don't know if you can show it.
Absolutely, you go for it. You put it up on screen.
Viewers.
Here we go.
Okay, in fourth place, we got image number 3 by Lerato Pore. So thank you so much, Lerato.
Well done, Lerato.
Yes.
Okay. There's fourth place,
in third place, we've got image number 1. And that was submitted by Bianca Buthelezi.
Well done, Bianca Buthelezi. Yay! I'm getting excited now. Second place now.
Bianca.
Come on, second place. Here we go.
Yes, for our runner-up, if we could give you a crown, we would do so. Second place was image 4, and this was won by Ashwanik Leon. Congratulations, Ashwanik.
Nice one, Ashwanik.
And now the drum roll.
Here we go. Here we go. It's the big one. The winner of the 2,000 Rand cash prize is Rachel Fisher.
And it is image number 2 submitted by Leon Peterson.
Yay!
Congratulations, Leon.
Isn't that fantastic? Right, we start the show off with a competition. Love it. And here's the great news. We've got Leon Peterson on board. Hello, Leon. Well done on winning the outer competition.
Thank you.
Oh, it's a $2,000 is yours. Do you want the money?
Yes, please.
Okay, it's yours. I was going to share it around, but okay, it's yours. You're the winner. You've won it. Well done. And congratulations from all of us at Outer. It's
Thank you.
nice to have you on board, right? Can I ask you a question or two before we say goodbye to you tonight?
Yes.
I'd like to know if you believe in superheroes. Do you believe in superheroes? Who's your favorite superhero?
Batman.
Batman, eh? And tell me why you decided to submit a drawing for this competition.
Because my mother follows the Outer website on Facebook. And then my mother follows the Outer website on Facebook.
Yeah. And so she encouraged you. A bit of pressure there from mom, eh? But look how it all worked out. $2,000 in your pocket and a book and a cap and a mask. You're walking away from the Outer Hour with a nice goodie bag tonight. Just quickly, if you could be president of South Africa for one day, if we said, right, President Peterson, you are the president of South Africa tomorrow, what would you do?
I would build shelters for the homeless.
Well, it's a perfect answer, Leon, and thank you. What a lovely answer from our competition winner tonight. Let me wish you well. Enjoy spending that 2,000 Rand or saving it or whatever. What are you planning on doing with it? Have you got a plan yet?
No, not actually.
Okay. Well, maybe put it in the bank or under your pillow, not in the couch, eh? Okay. Well done, Leon. Thank you for being on the show tonight and congratulations on being our winner for the competition. It's nice to have you with us. There's a big round of applause for you, okay? Bye-bye, Leon.
Bye.
There we go. Lovely, eh? Nice to be able to start a show and give a prize away. We should do that every week. And before they go, there's Leon's mom. Come on, show us your mom quickly. There we go. Hello, Mom. That's who we're talking to. Okay, yeah, lekker. We weren't going to put you on, but now we have to. We see your face. Thank you. Well done. And no taking any of that $2,000 that your child won, eh? It's their money.
I won't. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And continue. Thank you for your continued support of Outer. Thank you. All right. Well done to both of them. Nice. Okay, let's get to our topic tonight and to our guests and say good evening. First of all, why don't we say hello to Asavela Kakaza? It's been a while since Asavela has been on the Outer Hour. And say, hello, Asavela. How things go in your side of the world?
Hi, Tom. It's such a pleasure to be here with all these wonderful people. I really am looking forward to the conversations that we will be having tonight. But yeah, I'm doing well. A bit cold, but it's winter, so it's expected. But yeah.
I know. Well, you probably don't have an air conditioner like I've got in the studio. It's nice and toasty in here tonight. Looking forward to the conversation. Now, from let me introduce our next guest by saying hello firstly, and then tell you what she's all about. Nqeliwe Shivambu. How's it, Nqeliwe? How are you? Welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you for having me, and hello to everyone watching or listening.
It's nice to have you with us. Nqeliwe Shivambu is a youth and climate change activist. Her interests are policy making, advocacy, and diplomacy. And as the focal point for the Climate Change YPC working group, she facilitates youth engagement with national climate policies and serves as a representative of the We Are Tomorrow Global Partnership. It's a very impressive resume. But describe yourself for us in one sentence. Who are you?
Okay, so I'm Nqeliwe Shivambu, and I've been an activist, since high school, and then I got trapped after varsity in civil society. So I think I could say I'm the people's servant.
Well, we can't wait to chat to you tonight. And thank you for making time for us. Tsepo Pasha, CEO of Mind Architecture, is with us this evening. Tsepo graduated at UJ for a diploma in financial and management accounting. He's currently doing an advanced diploma in accounting science, majoring in taxation. Tsepo is a sales consultant at Standard Bank and owns a company called Mind Architecture, which specializes in customer service. Let's say hello to Tsepo. How's it, Tsepo? Thanks for joining us.
Hi, Tom. How are you? Thanks for having me, man.
It's a pleasure. It's nice to see you on screen, and you're looking good, and you're looking young, and you're looking like you got a lot of enthusiasm. We can't wait for the conversation this evening. Thank you.
Looking forward to it as well.
All right. So why don't we start with you, seeing as you're on screen? Why did you become a youth activist? What is a youth activist, firstly? What does it mean to be a youth activist? Tsepo?
It's trying to push for change and trying to make sure that it's not only about you, but there's a greater vision at play, you know, because once you make life about me, myself, and I, then you rob the world, you rob your community of a greater purpose and greater opportunities that one can push and be a part of.
There are a lot of comments coming in, questions attached to this topic. We'll start putting them to you in just a moment. But let me ask Neliwe if she wants to add to what Tsepo is saying. You say you got trapped in activism. What does it mean to you to be a youth activist?
I think for me, being a youth activist has always been about brightening the corner where I am. So in my community, it was basically bringing about change and wanting to speak up for people or be active in whatever was going on, especially from high school. And when I say I got trapped, it's because I realized that more and more spaces needed more Black females in those spaces so that we represented. So for me, activism is all about representation, being in a space that basically looks the same as you, or accommodates you rather.
I'm looking at some of the comments coming in, and there's some lovely comments. We're going to try and get to many of them as possible. But here's one from Kevin. Kevin says, we have let the youth down by being old farts in government. The old people have stolen all the money. The youth could bring more to the table than the fossils we have making decisions. Now, I know he's been rather harsh in that comment, but is there a point there, Neliwe, when it comes to the power, the people in power in South Africa? Are we sitting with too many old people in decision-making positions, and do we see enough representation from young people?
I mean, true. I mean, if you can think about it, the only time that we have had young people in parliament was after Fees Must Fall. And since then, there was basically no one. And I think what Kevin is saying is right. We have been seeing government officials patronizing the youth very much. You hear words such as confused, lost, unexperienced, gain more experience, you need to learn more. You don't know anything. You went there in 1976. We fought for this. You didn't. We gave you this. Be appreciative. Be grateful. We have heard a lot of lip service also from government officials or government departments that pay lip service to the issues of young people. When it's Youth Month, every government department has a budget to go set up a stadium, bring in celebrities, and basically celebrate Youth Month. But throughout the year, you don't hear youth issues being spoken about. Young people's issues, or rather, have not been centered around the development of this country, nor the socio-economic crisis that this country finds itself. We've always been seen as the problem rather than the solution. So I think Kevin is right. Yeah.
Let me ask Asavela, who represents Outer on the show tonight. Asavela, in your opinion, what do you think the biggest challenges that young people are faced with today?
Thank you, Tom. I think it goes without saying that the biggest challenge facing the youth today is unemployment. I was reading last week a newspaper about how I think about 66.5% of young people are without jobs. Yeah. Now, that's obviously very disheartening, Tom, because as a result of unemployment, there's a lot that comes from that, or a lot of or unfortunate incidents like substance abuse, unplanned pregnancy, depression. If you were to go on social media right now, I'm sure you'd find at least one young person speaking about depression as a result of unemployment. So I think that's the biggest challenge. And then I think also the other challenge, to the youth that is fortunate enough to have jobs, is probably the high cost of living. Now, I know that that's not just exclusive to the youth, because everybody is feeling the wrath of, high cost of living.
Sure.
But I think young people, particularly those in their late teens, early 20s, those who are still, who have entry-level jobs, your internships, your articles of clerkship, those people are dependent on a stipend. So here you are with this little stipend that you're getting. The next thing you know, the fuel prices are going up. And then you are probably, especially those who come from, previously disadvantaged homes, you are probably like the breadwinner in the family. And now everybody is looking at this, So that's also another challenge that the young people are facing. And also, I would think poor quality education, Tom, and that's probably the root cause of some of the challenges that the youth are facing.
Well, I want to stop you there,
also alluded to it,
because Denzel Naidu put something up on screen that ties into what you've just said, the quality of education. And Denzel Naidu says, "Hello, Mr. London. Dropouts from school. What is being done about this phenomena and its social evils?" Now, I find this to be quite an interesting topic, education, because for 20 years or so, we've heard that education is the answer to our problems. In fact, it was former President Mandela who pushed that narrative to say we need to educate young people. I have this, I don't say I've got a problem with that thought, because I do believe in educating our nation. But if there aren't enough jobs for everyone who's got a qualification, and we're already seeing people with qualifications that can't find jobs, exiting tertiary institutions, how much of a role does education play? Let me ask Tsepo. Tsepo, how important is education in the greater scheme of things?
Education is vital because it gives you an opportunity for doors to open for you to get into that interview. And thereafter, once you get into that corporate company, whichever one you might have been interviewed by, the ball is in your court. It is up to you to push yourself, because the qualification will get you in, but what you do when you're in there, that is all entirely on you. So education, yes, is important, but dedication, hard work, and telling yourself that you can do this, telling yourself that you've got this, and not settling. Because what I've noticed is, because I'm also in corporate, is that young people come in. Well, I'm also young. We come in, and then we think just because you've got a degree, we have to get promotions. Whereas once you have that degree, it has given you a foot up into getting into that company. And there onwards, going forward, it's all on you. You need to put in the work. You need to show everybody else that you have what it takes to break it into the corporate space.
Now, that's, as I listen to you as slightly older, I'm turning 50 this year, so I probably got a few more miles under my belt. I've listened to you talk, and you make absolute sense. But I want to ask Neliwe about this. I mean, if education unlocks the door, what do we do, as Denzel says, about school dropouts, about people who exit the education system before they even get a tertiary qualification? Neliwe?
Tom, I've always called those young people lost in the system. An advice my English teacher gave me in high school.
Sure.
When I was trying to find for varsities, she said to me, whatever happens, don't go out of the system. And what she meant by that is that if you're going to go to a college, go to a college. If you're going to go to varsity, go to varsity. Don't take a year off, or don't take time off, or don't get lost or get pushed out of the system. And what she meant by that was that when young people drop out by grade 9 or decide to leave school by grade 9 because maybe subjects at school maybe don't cater to their learning needs, then they get lost out of the system. And when you're lost out of the system, unfortunately in South Africa, you are missing. So that was why we have never had the Gauteng Department of Education on its matric results ever account for the number of young people that registered to write matric and the number of people that never wrote, because we've never held them into account. Where is the missing number of those students? In 2001, these are the number of students that entered the school system. And in this year, these are the number of students. What went wrong? So when young people get out of the system, which is out of school, out of institutions, they then get neglected and get lost, as if we're not neglected enough in the institutions. But I think then even with civil society, they've then tried to get to those young people through going into communities and working with these youth-led organizations so that they can have ways to find the missing youth or the young people that got lost out of the system. So there's really nothing that we can, I don't want to say there's really nothing that we can do, but what I'm trying to say is that civil society has tried to go and find the missing youth, but the government hasn't really made any efforts to find them because then we don't find them in the sector.
Sure.
We then also don't find them in universities and colleges.
Well, I'm looking at a comment coming from Kevin Courtnidge. I'd like your comment on this while you're on screen. Kevin Courtnidge says 30% pass rate. Really, the youth expect more. Your comments on pass rates, if you have an observational comment?
I think the pass rates, okay, so I'm just going to go back to Tepo's points and also answer that.
Sure.
When we speak about hard work, we need to remember that the politics are personal, right? And we need to then remember that the 30% was then created for students in public institutions that don't have the necessary infrastructure to basically do well in their studies. So if you then say 30%, if we then say to government, increase the pass rates, it will then mean we're telling the government, provide infrastructure, provide the labs, provide enough teachers, provide enough furniture, build enough schools. And for us to say that, because the two must go hand in hand. If you're going to 160s, the government will need to show up. And we know they won't show up, not anytime soon.
Do you lay the blame, if we're going to use that word, asevela, at the door of government? I mean, we could say that society hasn't been active enough in holding government to account, but where ultimately does the responsibility lie?
Of course, Tom. I mean, to a certain extent, I mean, we can all say that we can take some sort of responsibility. I think a huge chunk of this lies with the government, especially in light of the mismanagement of funds as well as corruption is concerned, because that's a huge contributing factor to, the challenges that are faced by youth today. You know, you look at, for example, the legislation such as the Skills Development Act, which is a legislation that was implemented or was founded so as to or was aimed at expanding the knowledge and competence within the labor force, so as to equip people and make them better so that they can, be employable. You look at that, and then as a result of that act, we had Services SETA, or institutions such as Services SETA, or SETA in general. And then you look at the mismanagement of funds within that institution. And you hear the complaints from young people, learners who tell you that they have not been receiving their stipends in months. They're not receiving their certificates, the same certificates that they're supposed to be using in order to apply for jobs. So there's a lot of mismanagement of funds and corruption that can be attributed to government. And also, if I can just touch on the education point that was spoken about by Tulu earlier. That, it's important. Education, it's not just education that we're referring to. It has to be good quality education, the kind of education that, empowers young people with basic skills so as to make them employable, because it's one thing to say people must go to school, but the kind of education that they are getting in that school is equipping them or making them valuable or, making them employable. Because I read somewhere that about at least 79% of grade 6 maths teachers don't even understand the syllabus that they're supposed to be teaching to the learners at school.
You see, when you say stuff like that, when you say stuff like that, and each of our guests has spoken about some of the problems that youth face, I feel sorry for young people. I think back to my I think of my grandparents who told me they had to walk 10 kilometers to school in shoes with holes in, and how tough times were after the Second World War, and they couldn't eat chocolate for months, etc., and life was a struggle. And then I hear my parents speak over the years of how tough things were when they were younger, and then I think back to my days and I think, well, it wasn't easy when I was young. I picked a bigger dream. I wanted to be a radio DJ. There weren't that many radio DJ jobs around. But I knew that if I kept at it, I could get there. And I was also operating in an economy with a much lower youth unemployment rate back in 1990 when I matriculated from school. The entire landscape looks very different today. And I'm looking at a comment from Christine Finnis who says, I feel sorry for the youth. And by the way, keep these comments coming in. We're going to use them in the show post, put them to our guests and get conversation going around your comments in the comment section. Christine says, I feel for the youth. I worry they don't have a future. Tsepo, how bad is it?
I think it's really bad, man, because it's unemployment, there's drugs. For those who have the education, there's still no jobs. So we still have a long way to go as the country and as the youth. So the government needs to come to the party to make sure that, as Asavile mentioned about the service seater and all the different types of seaters, because from what I know, there's 21 different seaters. They all need to come to the party. They all need to make sure that the skills development is there, so that the people who acquire those skills have a place to go implement them. Because if you have the skill and then you've got nowhere to implement the skill, what's the point of that? So there still needs to be a lot of development that needs to go into the youth, because the youth holds a massive chunk of the percentage of the entire South African population. So what's going to happen 50 years down the line if the youth doesn't get employed now? Our economy is going to go to shambles. So it's critical. It's very important for the government to make sure that they come to the party. The service seater needs to be held accountable for as Asavile mentioned, certificates that people don't get. Because I think it's really unfair waking up every morning, going to an institution whereby you were supposed to get training, you don't get your stipend.
It's a crime, isn't it? It's just criminal to do that to young people.
It is, and nobody gets held accountable for that. Instead, they move from one inquiry to another, from this inquiry to that, and we never really have a solution.
Here's a comment from Clive Beckett. Normally Clive comes on every week and says, when are we going to see people arrested? But Clive's got a different question tonight, right? Clive wants to know about the future of youngsters in South Africa and political affiliations. And I'm reading between the lines on his comment. And I think the assumption is that youth in this country, or people in this country, I have these conversations with friends and people all day long, that we kind of stay in our lane in South Africa. We've got a real problem with race relations in South Africa. We all have our lanes, and then when we get to the voting box, it pretty much reflects that. I think what Clive wants to know is how attached to the past are young people in South Africa today? Anyone can answer this question. Whoever jumps first.
Yeah, let me jump in quickly. I think, Tom, I don't know, there's an article today on Daily Maverick by Farrell Hafaji where she basically gave us options. There were so many great options. Songezo Zibi from Rivonia Circle wants to run. There's Lindiwe Mazibuko, former DA. There's a lot. There are options, because at first then the question was, when my first votes, because it will be my second national elections coming up. But when I started to vote, there were no options. And my mom was like, hey, which party to vote for. But I think now we're having so many options, and also there's independent candidates that are going to be running. So as young people, I think we can, and I think even in communities, we are starting to envision our politics, how our local governments are run without the ANC, without the leading party. And I think they've already lost 4 cities, So bit by bit, it's getting there. We are starting to see a future without them. We're starting to call for political and democratic change and renewal, because we want to see change, as young people.
Can I stop you there and challenge you? We talk about voter participation amongst young people, but when the national and the local government elections roll around, we don't see high enough turnout numbers amongst the youth in South Africa. Why is that? Why do you think that is?
There were no options, Tom. There were no options. You guys didn't give us any options. It was pick the devil you know. And that isn't an option to give young people and say, hey, there weren't any other options. There wasn't anyone who could be confident enough to put in office and say, hey, run. We want directed democracy. We want to vote for our own president. We want political change. We're seeing a rise of very young professionals right now that are leaving the country because they don't know what to do.
Yeah.
And some of us don't want to leave the country. Some of us want to do something
Join the
for
club.
South Africa.
Yeah.
And therefore we're saying that in 24 months, come the general elections, we're ready to see a president that's under 50, under 40 as well. We're ready.
Let me talk to you then, Tsepo. Do you agree with what Neliwe is saying when it comes to a lack of representation in the political parties? And if so, what's the solution? Because a lot of South Africans are stuck in the same position regardless of age. We're very much voting for the devil we know when we go to the ballot box. Where does the change come from? Who are our future leaders? Where are these young people that we do not see in the headlines that dominate our news feeds every day? Are they there?
Firstly, I just want to say I agree with Cleo in terms of that there are options now, but the other challenge is the problem is when you want to say join, say the ANC, and you want to implement positive change, there will always be gatekeepers, people who will say, no, we've been here, this is how things have been going, and you cannot come here and change things. So hence now there's the option of individuals running for office. So that then opens a whole new can of worms, because now there are people that we know in our community that says, okay, this one has been doing A, B, and C, and he or she has the potential for us to follow, and he or she has the potential to lead. So the individuals running for offices, I am totally for that, and we're going to see a lot of change going forward. So 24 months is...
Do you think there's a gap for a young people's party in South Africa? I mean, instantly think of Nhlanhla Lux and the Young People's Parliament, but he's sitting on the fringe at the moment. He's kicking up a lot of activist dust in Soweto and surrounds. And as he kicks up dust, he becomes less and less palatable to voters, for example, in my opinion. However, the question remains, do you think there is a space for a young person's party in South Africa, or young people's party? Is it something we could expect?
Yes, there definitely is space and room for that. But I think the biggest challenge would be the funding, because the marketing, the advertising, that on its own requires a budget, and you find that you're an unknown and people will not just want to put their money on you. So yes, it's doable and it will take time, but as those baby steps happen, it will disrupt the guys on top, and they will begin to realize that they need to change their act or ship out.
Do you get frustrated, Asavela, as a young person, both when it comes to the political options that you've got, the parties you've got to vote for, and the opportunities? What are your frustrations? And not as an outer representative, as an individual now.
Right. Thanks, Tom. Of course I get frustrated, Tom. And going back to the point that you made, that people would rather vote for the devil that they know, I think as young people, we are getting to a point where we are tired of the devil that we know, or at least the devil that our parents introduced us to, because we see that it's really not helping us with our issues or the challenges that we are facing. We are facing unemployment. We are sitting with qualifications at home, and is to work. And, all these political parties, all you see is that, people are just looking for political gain or just to benefit themselves. And, it's not anything that really speaks to the youth. And it's very frustrating, Tom, because comes election day, you really have to think about it. But, because that it's important to vote. I mean, this is a right that was fought for, so it's a privilege that you even have this right. But now you think, but who am I going to vote for? Like, you're struggling to find a political party that speaks to your issues as a young person.
You know, I keep thinking of this word inclusion, you know, and when I look, as you talk, and as the three contributors tonight have spoken, it's very obvious as an older South African that you don't feel as if you have that inclusion, even in the political space or representation.
Yes, Tom. I mean, there are political parties which some are led by young people, but then when you look at their policies and what they speak to, you see that, okay, they don't necessarily address, you know, the issues that you have, because I think that us as young people want, Tom, is, you know, division. You know, we want a political party that's going to speak to inclusivity, you know, bringing people together and stop with the racial division or, you know, which country are you from, all of that. You know, I think for me, it's important that we speak inclusivity and celebrate our diversity as well. So it's very difficult to find a political party that speaks to that, because either people to, you know, exclude other people based on their race, based on, you know, where they're from, you know, that you are not a South African, then you need to go back home.
Or it could be that you don't have access to tenders or contracts because you don't know somebody, you're not related to somebody, you may just be from the back road of some township in South Africa and you just can't get through the door. So when I talk about inclusion or inclusivity, I think it's a fascinating word and concept, and I'd like to drill down into it a little bit. But I see Clive Beckett. You see, here we go. This is why I love the Outer Hour listeners. They pull the handbrake up on the show and they say, hold on a moment. Here's a crackerjack question for you. Clive's had one question. He's only getting 2 questions tonight. But here's Clive's second question, and I have to put it in, right? He says exactly. He's agreeing with everything that's been said. So what is the point of Youth Day? And let me ask Tsepo. Let me put this question to Tsepo, and then anyone can jump in if they like. You know, we know the origins of Youth Day. We know we know that we commemorate June 16th. We know the history of this country. We know it was young people who took to the streets, who said enough of the education system that we've got, enough of the lack of opportunities, and enough of this political system that we aren't allowed to thrive in. It was young people took to the streets and started this ball rolling that we call resistance in South Africa. It ultimately led to a massive change and into a democratic era. Here we are, 2022, all those years away from June 16th back in the set. You know, what does Youth Day mean today? Tsepo, what does it mean? Why do we commemorate it? Why should we be celebrating it? What should we be speaking about in 2022? Is it about looking back at the past, or is it looking into the future?
Firstly, I think it has lost the meaning that it once had, that togetherness and fighting for a cause that will change the entire face of history. So going forward, I think we also need young people now that will stand together and fight unemployment and fight drug abuse and find, because the one massive problem I've also seen as an entrepreneur is access to markets. You know, you might have a good product, you might have the best product that you're selling, but breaking into a market is also a problem.
Yeah, a couple of years back, I was bored on weekends. I didn't have a girlfriend at the time. I still don't think I've got a girlfriend. I don't know, actually. She'll have to tell me. But I didn't have a girlfriend at the time, and I was working Monday to Friday, bored on the weekends, and I thought to myself, I'm going to open a micro business. I want to see what it's like opening a business without any money. I put very little of my own money into it, just 1,000 or 2,000 rand, right? And I opened a little food business, and I got a trestle table, and I went to the markets in Johannesburg, and I sold food across the trestle table to people. And I, for the very first time in my life, because I've had medium-sized businesses under my control before, I've worked in corporates where I've had a division that I ran, and I come from a family of entrepreneurs, and it's always been a pleasure opening businesses. But the moment I took a business down to micro level, and I said, right, let me start a business with nothing. Let me see what it's like. Where do I go? What do I do? It was my weekend hobby, if you want to put it that way, but I was passionate about it. First thing I found out, and things have changed a little now, was I couldn't get a card machine. It was before these, the ones you can get all over the place now. These are card machines. You had to go to Standard Bank or FNB or this, that. And then you had to show them that you had an account and you had a business account and blah, 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 blah. It was impossible as a micro trader to get access to the financial institutions. It was impossible to find a trading space because the trading spaces are 200, 300 square meters and nobody's got the money or the financial wherewithal to sign the leases with these big shopping centers. So where do you find a 20 square meter trading space in Johannesburg or South Africa to start a little business? And it just went on and on and on and on. And I started becoming a bit of an activist in this regard, going to people like Herman Mashaba when he was head of the Free Market Foundation and saying, come on, you guys have to do something about this. Going to friends of mine who are involved in government and politics and saying, I've just discovered how difficult it is for young people to enter the economy with a small business. And while we're talking about this, I'm reminded of a debate between Julius Malema and Clem Santa some time ago. It's on the internet. If you haven't looked at it, do yourself a favor as you watch this program. Go look at that debate. Clem Santa and Julius Malema debating policies. The one thing that the two of them agreed on was that corporate South Africa, and I would extend that to government, corporate South Africa should take a percentage of their procurement budget, and I think the percentage they both agreed on was around 20%, and give and allocate that percentage of their budget to young and developing SMMEs. Is that what inclusion means when it comes to this economy? Is that what it is? Anyone can answer.
Yes, I think that's what inclusion is, because with that 20% that any big corporate makes, it'll make a massive difference in an SMME, because you find the SMMEs, they have the infrastructure, but they don't have money to produce whatever their business model is. So as entrepreneurs, cash is important. The cash injection is very important because it will also stimulate the business. It will help the entrepreneur create employment for other youth people, and that will decrease our unemployment rate. So entrepreneurship is very key, and we need corporate South Africa to come in and lend us a hand. We also need the government to come through and also assist where they can, because that, for me, in my opinion, is how the unemployment rate will be cut probably in half.
You see, I'm just this practical boykie from Springs, right? I try and bring things down to the simplest solution to a massive problem. And we've got this huge problem in South Africa where young people, not everyone's going to get educated and go into the formal work sector. And some people, like me, are going to have to get up in the morning and figure out how to make the money this month. And so we get labeled entrepreneurs. And so, I mean, I think we're in agreement that access to companies, access to government contracts, etc. We need to take a good look at it. It shouldn't go to the usual suspects. We just hand I'm thinking of these 100 million rand deals that one person gets. Surely we could do so. Surely a big company down the road, a multinational listed company, could take its garden services contract and say, right, let's start working small businesses into this. And then you grow 3 or 4 little companies around your business, and you can mentor them. You can watch them through the window of your office and see whether they're doing a good job. And that's how we grow businesses. But here's the other side of the coin, right? Bertus de Wet says we need a mindset change from work less and earn more to work more and earn more. Do you think that young people need a mindset change, Neliwe?
To work more? I don't know. I think I'm personally, this was my first entry-level job, and I think Asavela was right, just with her means of, just to survive in this country. And I think in my second month, I was like, okay, I need to come up with a a side hustle, but then it's like, where do you go? Where do you go and what exactly do you do? Not everyone is a Tepo Pasha that could come up with like ground-breaking business ideas. Then do you go micro? Do you go big? Do you go fund? Do you fund funding? Then on top of that, you're like, let me get another degree. Let me go back to school. But I think the idea I just want to really, make sure it dies down is the idea that young people in this country are lazy. I think that's just the most cruel thing you could ever say to young people. I'm just thinking about an everyday life of a young person having to wake up at 6 a.m., catch the bus, go to work, and work after then go to school. And that's just the life of me as a young person in this country. And ever finding someone to tell me that I'm lazy, maybe I should be more entrepreneurial. How? I literally get to my home at 7 and I'm tired and and then there's Wits waiting for me. So I think just the notion that young people are lazy and they should do more, it's just cruel. As if we're not already doing more. But I do want to encourage entrepreneurship, and maybe it should start at school. Maybe this is something that we should be trained and start at school. Start using money, start having young people work with money. It would be great to see how the young person that won the competition, I would use their $2,000. Because when I got $2,000 at that age, I'll probably spend it or whatever.
Me too.
But it will be great to see how the mom to basically introduce him to money, introduce him to money and how money works, the language of money. And you can't really blame our parents because at that time they were just trying to make sure we fed. And in our prime age after varsity, we had to learn how to handle money. We had to learn how to get the basic done. And even in this country, you can't even meet the basics with whatever qualifications you have or whatever. So I think it's really important that the conversation of money, the conversation of entrepreneurship, the conversation of funding alternatives, if you don't go to varsity, what else? If you don't go to college, what else? If you don't get your certificates, what else? We need to provide young people with options, and that's all we need. We're not lazy. We need the options. Give me the options. Give me the options.
Well, you mentioned services, SETA and SETAs in general. Let me ask Asavela, because she's well versed when it comes to this topic. Here's a comment from one of our viewers saying, yes, SETAs used to work. As an employer, it's not worth paying for anymore. Are our SETAs delivering? Or is it just a waste of money?
Well, Tom, from the investigation that we have been conducting as ARTA, I can say no. And that's because mainly of the mismanagement of funds. There's a specific tender that we've been investigating relating to a company called Grayson Reed. And even with that tender, Tom, what instigated the investigation of ARTA was as a result of, young people lodging complaints with ARTA, going back to a point that Aliwa said earlier, that it's not that young people are lazy, it's just a lack of opportunity. So I think from that you can see the hunger in young people. They're not getting a service that they're supposed to be getting from this institution. So they find out, how can we resolve this? What can we do? And they approach organizations such as ARTA, which it's very important to have organizations such as ARTA, where people can run to when, the government is obviously failing to do its job. Because what we do as ARTA is to help hold those need to be held accountable, and that's exactly what we're doing with SETAs. There's a lot that we found out, but I won't delve much into it right now, Tom. But, there's a lot of mismanagement of funds, and there's an entire network of people that are unduly benefiting from the SETAs, and not just services SETA or construction SETA, but the entire SETA program. So, they're using companies and they dissolve companies and they start other ones in different names, but it's the same directors. Procurement processes are being overlooked. So all of that is definitely a contributing factor to the challenges that are being faced by the youth.
I just want to say thank you to our viewers for the comments that are coming in the comment section tonight. Far too many to put on screen. So if you haven't seen your comment on screen, we haven't put it to one of our contributors. My apologies. Just so many coming in. But the really nice thing about your comments in the comment section is that you can engage with each other, and I see that happening. It's really, really nice to see the conversation happening and know that we're reading these comments as they're flying across the screen. There's some very, very good stuff coming out of it tonight. Before we go, and I'm just we'll probably extend the show by a couple of minutes because we can't have our two guests on without finding out what their businesses and what their interests are. And I'd really like to know let's start with Eliwe, shall we? And tell us more about this initiative of yours, the Youth Climate Action Plan for the city of Joburg. What does that mean? It's a mouthful.
Yeah, that's a lot. So obviously speaking on, having young people engaged in policies. So my form of activism was through policy making and advocacy. So when the city of Joburg then came up last year in 2020 and said they want to have a climate action plan for the city of Joburg to mitigate and adapt to, the climate change in the city, they then asked young people to draft up something, and I was part of those young people that then drafted the city's Youth Climate Action Plan, where young people basically spoke up about the city of Joburg they would want. So we spoke about issues from solar streetlights to green transport, to cleaner cities, greener cities, greener businesses, and how even you can provide incentives for young entrepreneurs that are going green in their businesses. So we started that initiative with the city of Joburg in 2020 with the previous administration, and still in talks with the current administration. But all in all, that fruitful exercise with the city then resulted to the South African Youth Climate Action Plan. I think everyone, if you would like to have a read at that, it is the first action plan by young people in South Africa that are saying this is how we would want, the just transition to climate change to look like in South Africa. It's written by young people for young people. And I think you can check it out under the South African Institute of International Affairs, which is Youth at SIA, and you'll find the climate action and go read up more. I mean, more than anything, the issues of young people that are facing today are urgent, but climate change is urgent, and it's definitely an issue that everyone should jump on.
Yeah, and we committed ourselves to international treaties in this regard, so it's not something that we can ignore as a country. We take a look at Eskom. Eskom's the 7th biggest power network in the world. Our coal-fired power stations contribute to a massive pollution problem in South Africa, and damn right we have to address it. Tsepo, tell us about Mind Architecture. I want to know about your business.
Thanks, Tom. So Mind Architecture is a public speaking company. So the Mind is an acronym for Masters in Navigating Destiny. Simply saying that you are the master in navigating to wherever you want to go. As much as say you're on WhatsApp now, Tom, and you sent me a location and I would navigate to where you are. So with that said, you are the master in navigating to your destiny. Only you know where your destiny is. Only you know what you want. So you need to navigate to that, irrespective of all the hurdles. The hurdles might be the pothole on the road, the hump down the road, a flat tire, a stop at a petrol station. So all of those are the hurdles that you will encounter towards where you are going, which is, which is a destiny. So then with that said, I specialize in customer service, being influenced by working in the bank. I've realized that customer service, a customer-centric environment is critical to businesses growing. So each and every person out there who's got a business, they need to be mindful of the customers that walk in and walk out. So I've got a flagship talk titled Bills and Lights, which says that the customer is the reason that the lights in your company are on, and they are the reason you're able to pay your bills, hence bills and lights. So it's critical for us to take care of our customers.
Sure.
It's important because without the customers, the business will close and the business will be liquidated. So yeah, Mind Architecture does both those things. And then I also do, I'm a co-owner for Piggery Farm that I do with my colleague Tumelo Malumane. So we partners in that, and well, it's still fairly new, but we've been learning so much in that space. So yeah, it's going to be one nice year for us. Thank you, that's all.
Wow. This hour has flown by. In fact, we're 2 minutes over time, and I don't think we've even scratched the surface when it comes to the challenges, the opportunities, and the realities that the youth in South Africa face. It's been such a fascinating conversation this evening. I've got a question or two left up my sleeve, and maybe I'll pop one in before we go. I'm just taking a look at some of the lovely comments coming in. Here's one. I started a side business with near to nil knowledge on it. In time, I gained knowledge. I became an expert in some in 10,000 hours. There was a comment earlier, and I'm looking for it, and I'm seeing if I can put it on screen because there's so many that I'm scrolling through, and I'm just going to see if I can find it because I think it's pertinent and it's relevant. And it ties into what I was saying about race relations in South Africa a little earlier on. And if I could find it, otherwise I'll just paraphrase. But the gist of the comment was Youth Day and opportunities. When we talk about opportunities, we should be talking about all youth in South Africa. Do you believe we've gone far enough in South Africa to have young people working together? See, my assumption is that this is a country where we have so many different race groups, we have so many different cultures. Why we have all this diversity? Why aren't we able to put diversity into a business? Why aren't we able to build businesses together, so to speak? Why does it seem so difficult? Or am I just being old and cynical? Anyone can answer this question.
I think, Tom, for me, having worked in civil society, I think I've seen a lot of young people coming together through youth-led organizations. Just to mention a few, Daily Fox, Youth Capital, and Youth Lab, but they are mainly focused on youth-centered problems and issues. Those are the three organizations that I could top of my head list and say, if young people want solutions about, they've done research that relates to young people problems. How much is the cost of finding employment in this country? Youth Capital did that. Daily Fox speaks on young people's stories, young people doing magic in their different communities. So I think we are seeing a rise of young people getting together and actually saying, how do we go about this? And I think those young people have met in spaces such as these, on Twitter, on social media. We've seen how young people through social media have united against the common cause. And I think we're going to see it in the next upcoming elections. We're definitely going to see young people centering themselves in the politics of this country, how this country is governed, who governs this country, is when we're going to then start seeing young people from different professions even coming together to find solutions, because we are the ones we've been waiting for. We are the solution and not really much the problem. All
right. Well, I sense a lot of hope and positivity in your voice when you make those comments. It gives me hope for our future. We started the show by asking our young person who won the competition what they would do if they were president of South Africa for a day. Let's make it fair. Let's ask everyone this question. Asavela Kakaza, you haven't got time to think about this. You're on the hot seat now. If it was President Kakaza tomorrow and you had 24 hours to be president, what would you do?
Oh man, Tom, you're putting me on the spot here.
Yes, what would be your big announcement?
Create more jobs, Tom, because I think, encourage, corporates, everybody to come together. I think this is a challenge that the entire country should come together and tackle. So let's talk, how do we resolve the unemployment? I think that's the first thing I
got it. I can see Asavela pulling a working group together as president of South Africa, business, government, and organizations and youth around a table and saying, let's find solutions. Okay, let's ask Neliwe, what would be your first thing that you'd do if it was President Shivambu?
I would make this country safe for women. Oh my gosh, Tom, this country is a nightmare. Just surviving and living in this country, leaving your house, in your house, anyway. I think I'll make this country safer for women. Yeah.
Nice point. And Tsepo, President Pasha?
I would fix Eskom because energy security plays a big role in our economy. As we having this interview, I've been crossing my thumbs that we don't have load shedding because this interview is gonna go down the drain. So Eskom is one that needs urgent attention so that we're able to move forward as a country because we need the energy security.
The thing I like about this discussion tonight, and we're coming to the tail end of it now. The thing I really like about this conversation tonight, it hasn't sounded like like political speak, if I may use that phrase. We haven't bashed phrases around and relied on rhetoric. There's been some really honest conversation in the show tonight. Firstly, I'd like to thank you for it. And secondly, it makes me believe that if as a country we put young people like yourselves around a table and said, right, let's find solutions. It looks like young people are solutions driven, whereas the older crowd, we might be focusing a bit too much on the problems and trying to fix things the way we did before. And we clearly need different thinking in this world and in South Africa. You guys have given me a lot of hope for our future tonight. Thank you. Just from your comments and your ideas. And if I was president for a day, because no one's asked me, right? If I was president for a day, if it was President London, firstly, I'd wear one of those big military outfits because I'd want to look grand. But I would go on every social media channel and call some of the brightest minds in South Africa from the youth to come and sit around a table and actually look for solutions. Not engage in workshops that don't lead to anything, but actually start talking about these problems with young people. So, for example, we can't grow an economy without fixing Eskom. Right, Tsepo, how do you think we can fix Eskom? You don't know? Bring someone you think that does, right? Neliwe, we have a problem with violence in this country. We have a problem with gender-based violence in this country. How would Ms. Shivambu sort this out? And Asavela Kakaza, how would you deal with this wish of reducing unemployment? What are the practical solutions? I really do believe that young people are solutions driven, and you should be given a bigger voice in this country's day-to-day run-ins. I think it would help us a lot. I'm going to leave it there for tonight, and I'm going to thank our guests this evening. Thank you very much. What a fascinating conversation, and I hope as you sit at home or wherever you are, you've enjoyed it as much as I do. On your screen now, in the top right corner, thank you so much, Neliwe Shivambu, youth and climate change activist. I see you've got a lot of fans in the comment section. There may even be one or two marriage proposals based on your performance here tonight. You've really outdone yourself. Thank you so much. And then our very own Asavela Kakaza, who always brings joy and energy to the show and is keeping a close eye on the CETAs of this world to make sure that they deliver and hold them accountable. Thank you, Asavela. And
thank you so much for having me, Tom. Such an inspiring show tonight.
It's always a pleasure. You made it a great one. And then Tsepo Pasha, thank you, Tsepo, for joining us this evening. Your contribution is valued, and wow, you have just blown our minds this evening with your articulate thoughts and proposals. Thank you. And what a great panel of guests. Isn't it wonderful to hear young people talk about the issues that we moan about every day? They can see solutions. We need to give them a seat at the table. If not, you know what young people do? They organize their own political party or they organize a revolution, one of the two. And we certainly don't want the second option. So let's pull young people into the way this country runs. They're our guests on screen now. What a fantastic lineup we'd have this evening. I hope you've enjoyed it as much as I have. Well, that's it for another Outer Hour. Thank you for joining me, the Outer team, and our contributors tonight. As I send you off into the long weekend and as we commemorate Youth Day, I leave you with these words. I believe that children are our future. Teach them well. Teach them well. And let them lead the way. Show them all the beauty they possess inside. Give them a sense of pride. To make it easier, let the children's laughter remind us how we used to be. See you next Wednesday at 7 p.m. I wish you lots of love, luck, financial success, and a warm, long weekend. Until next Wednesday, I'm Tom London, and I miss you already.
Our fight to eradicate corruption, maladministration, unethical leaders, and the abuse of taxpayers' money by those in power continues. It's fresh, it's fearless, and focused. The Outer Hour, where your